Hey, this is Brittany, CEO and founder of Talented Teams Consulting, and I am back with tonight's live stream. If you are joining live, say hey to me down in the chat, and we'll get to that a little bit later. And I'm just watching the chat and making sure that everyone is going to drop, whoever drops in can drop in. So tonight I am talking to you about all the things that you need to make sure you do to make sure you are planning your days effectively. If you can hear me okay, let me know down in the chat. I want to make sure that I'm broadcasting through effectively. And so tonight we're talking about all the things you need to do to make sure you are able to plan your HR day effectively. Sometimes we know it's easy for it to get out of control, to feel like you are in chaos, to feel like you're in reaction mode, playing catch up all the time. And even though that's okay sometimes, or that's to be expected sometimes, that should not be your everyday mentality when you're going through your day, because that's an easy way to get burnt out. So we're going to be talking today about ways. Thank you so much for saying you can hear me. And so we're going to be talking about ways you can make sure that you are able to thrive in your role and not just survive it. So who am I? My name is Bryttani Graddick. I am CEO and founder of Talented Teams Consulting. And in that business, I work primarily with HR Department of One professionals because I understand how difficult it is for you to do your jobs effectively. So I work with you to help you to create structure around your day, to help you to take new initiatives from idea to implementation, and also just to give you a sounding board, someone who's been there where you are, who's a few steps ahead of you, who can help you to shed light on things you might not already know to be true. Additionally, I work in the credit union industry right now as well. I'm a full-time employee working in as VP of HR and administration, leading 3 departments: HR, training and development, and then also compliance. And I have a new thing that I'm also working on. I'll share that a little bit later as well. So if you are joining live, say hey to me down in the chat and explain to me, tell me where you are in your HR career. Are you aspiring to be in HR? Are you currently working in HR? Tell me more about you in the chat. I want to make sure that I understand where you are so I can help you and serve you wherever you are as well. So if you have not already downloaded my free guide, How to Thrive as an HR Department of One, I'd love for you to click any of the links below in the chat or any of the links on my page to make sure you get a hand on that. That's going to help you to put some structure around your day as well. It gives you a blueprint to navigate your career so you know what to focus on as you're trying to grow your career wherever you are. I'm a big proponent of being able to make sure you are able to bloom wherever you're planted. And there's no limits that you can put on yourself, or no limits that you should put on yourself if you're trying to really grow your career intentionally. So I believe that you can grow your career if you want to. And so the blueprint helps you to make sure you're doing those things. Okay, so Angela says, hi there. This is the perfect topic for me. I'm currently surviving. Okay, you're surviving. Okay, tell me more, Angela. Tell me, what is your department? Tell me what your title is right now. And then also tell me, like, what are you doing in your position? How are you thriving? How are you surviving? What does that look like for you day to day? It's going to help me to make sure that you get what you need from tonight's conversation. So tonight we're going to be talking about all the ways that you can help you create more structure around your day, and some of the things that I feel like you need to make sure you are looking at. And I'm also going to give you a sneak peek into a planner that I created, something that helped me to grow my career from unpaid HR intern to vice president of HR in 13 years. Now, that's a little unheard of, especially in one industry, in one position, in one organization. But I also know that if you're building your career with intention, anything is possible. Again, don't put any limits on yourself. If you know there's something that you want to do, you have to make sure you are working to do those things. So this is going to be a great conversation for you if you're looking to build your career with intention. So this week, I had a great week. It was actually yesterday. I finished 2 calls with SHRM, the Society for Human Resource Management, and I'm now on their instructor bench. So I work with SHRM in 2 capacities. I'm an independent contractor. I'm one of their facilitators. And so starting March 1st through the 15th, I'll be facilitating a SHRM course called the HR Department of One Specialty Credential. So it's a Monday and Wednesday class from 7 to 9 p.m. and it's hosted through SHRM. And I'm excited to be able to facilitate that course because it's going to help the people that are taking the class to get some structure around their day as well. And so if you are interested in learning more about that credential, you can look on the SHRM website. And I'll probably by the end of this live stream, with this interest, I'll pull it up for you to learn more about it. But the SHRM specialty credential helps HR Department of One professionals to gain more knowledge, to know what you need to do to run a department effectively. So we all know that in HR Department of One, is the HR department. So when you're working in that environment, it's easy to feel overwhelmed because you have everything coming at you at once and you have to know everything about everything. It's a scary place to be. And I will never forget, for me being in that position, when I started my HR career, I started my career when I was still in college. And when I was in college, I was an undergraduate student. I had an unpaid internship. Everything was fine. And then when I graduated from college, I went full time. So when I graduated full time, it was still great. But then a few months after that, my supervisor moved away suddenly overseas. And I was left there by myself. And so my first thought was, okay, there's no way that I could still stay here. But, with hard work and determination and with prayer and my mom staying in my ear, I ended up staying there. And I thank God that I did, because I know now that with God, anything is possible. And I knew I could not do it on my own strength. So I really had to double down on my faith in that moment. And I also had to put some plans around what I did in my day. I knew how it could feel overwhelming and how things could, I was missing deadlines. I was working through my lunch break. I was working in the evenings. It was just completely unsustainable. So when I talk about why planning is important, it's because you've got to remember, even though you're an HR professional, even if you might be an HR department of one, you are more than just your job title. You've got to be able to work and live as well. And that's when I talk about the difference between surviving and thriving. You've got to be more than just that person at work, because your family needs you to be a whole person. So when I was in that position for myself, I had to figure out, how can I create some predictability around my days? What are some things that I could do where I can anticipate what comes next for me? Let's see. Angela says, I'm an HR generalist at a nonprofit organization that I've grown from 27 employees to 48 employees in 1 year. Wow. I'm responsible for the full recruiting cycle, training and development, personnel issues. That's a lot, Angela. Are you also an HR department of one? Or do you have a person who you report to who's also in the HR department? Tell me more about that so I can understand exactly how much is on your plate, because that sounds like a lot just for you in that role as HR generalist. So when I landed myself as an HR department of one, I was also an HR generalist. Even though I was the only person in the department, I was a generalist. I wasn't a manager. But I felt in that moment that even once I figured out I could figure out a way to add some structure around my day, I thought that was going to be the cap of my career. I thought there was no way for me to really grow from there. But these things that I've been able to create for myself are the things I'm now sharing with others, because I'm confident. I know without a shadow of a doubt that the systems that I've created for myself can help other people to grow with their careers as well. Once you grow with your own systems and you create your own process around things, it helps you to be able to show your credibility. It helps you to show that you are knowledgeable. It helps you to be the known expert. It's one thing to be the HR expert by default, like you're the only person who's the HR person. But if the people in your organization respect you enough to recognize you, to verbalize that you are the expert in the room, that does wonders for your career. But one of the first things you got to get a handle on is your day-to-day. How can you make sure you are handling your day-to-day effectively? Okay, Angela, you say you are Department of One. Great, you are in the right place. So thank you for tuning in tonight for this conversation. I feel like planning is such an underrated thing. I feel like sometimes we talk about planning, and I think I put it on in one of my social media pages. Sometimes the idea of planning can send people to sleep. But I believe that if you plan right, you can plan the career of your dreams. So let's wake up. Let's not just dream about our careers. Let's live out these careers as well. So one of the first things I think you might need to make sure you do is you should know at any point, whether anyone's asking you or not, you should always know what is the next thing. You should never get caught where you're like, okay, well, what's next? And even if you don't know the deadlines that you need to face, even if you miss a deadline one time, you want to make sure you write it down. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and pull up the planner that I created for myself all those years ago, so that I can share with you some systems that you might want to create as well. Let me pull this up. Okay. So I created this HR Department of One guide. And the reason for this is because I needed some structure around my day. So in this planner, of course, you have your passwords. Well, first, when I talk about being a whole person. You've got to realize that you are more than just your job title. So within this planner, I intentionally put these personal growth challenges in here. These are 30 things that you can make sure that you do. I think it's important for you to not just focus on your job. You've got to be a whole person. So these are things that you can do to pour into yourself so that you can pour into other people as well. I think it's important to write things down. You need your personal goals, your professional goal. The Bible says to write the vision and make it plain. And I'm a big believer in that. And let me just stop the sharing for 1 minute so you can hear my heart on this. I will never forget. So we recently moved into a new house because our kids are bigger now. They need more space. And so now they don't have to share a room. And when we were moving, I found one of my journals not journals, really like a notebook from when I was in college. And I was taking my notes and things like that. And when I was an HR intern, I was taking an entrepreneurial leadership class. And in that class, you had to write down like your career goals, where you saw yourself going. And on that planner, I put in there that I wanted to be an HR manager. I wanted to be a vice president of HR. And the dates that I put on it, I think I put like in 20 years, 25 years, I wanted to be a vice president of HR. I didn't even know at the time what HR really was. I just knew that I wanted to do it because it sounded good and it sounded like something I thought I could be good at. I had no idea I would meet that in 13 years. So when I wrote that down, I didn't intend to really meet the goal. But when the Bible says write the vision and make it plain, it's exactly what it is. You got to get super intentional throughout every day, every month, every year to know what you want to accomplish, because only you will know when you're going to accomplish that or not. Let's go back to the planner. So I like there to be these annual calendar pages. So one of the things that I did, I made sure that I wrote down every deadline, whether it was giving out the W-2s, whether it was processing payroll every 2 weeks, whether it was, I don't know, anything that had to be given out, the Medicare Part D notices for employees who had benefits, anything that happened, if it happened in the month of January and I knew it was going to happen again the next January, I wrote it down. And the reason for that is because I needed to have some structure around my day. I got tired of missing deadlines. I got tired of working through lunch. I got tired of being wiped out for my family on the weekends. It was not sustainable. So I had to start writing things down. So if you're not writing things down out there, whether you're watching live or watching the replay, start writing things down to get more structure. Again, even if you miss it the very first time, you're not going to miss it the next time if you are preparing yourself to do that. I'm not going to go through each of the pages, but of course it's a monthly page. And I like there to be reflections throughout. So at the beginning of each month, how are you feeling? What are you looking to accomplish? What new habit can you commit to create? When I talk about being a whole person, you've got to get super clear on the fact that you are more than your job title. I had to get super clear on that as well. For too long, I feel like my job consumed me. I feel like I was not a whole person. I was only the person who I was at work. And that's not a sustainable way to live. And I feel like sometimes when I talk to people, they're like, okay, well, I can't do what you did because I'm a mom. Or I can't do what you did because I'm in school. Or I can't do what you did because I've got small kids. But it's like, if you know me, you know that I'm a wife. You know that we've got 3 kids who are all age 8 and under. I'm very active in my church. I am leading my departments at my job. I'm running this business. I'm running this YouTube channel. You can do anything that you want as long as you've got a plan to do it. Oh, and then all on top of that, I'm also aligning myself to work with the Society for Human Resource Management. So again, you can do anything you want to do as long as you've got a super clear plan. And so when I created this planner, that's what I created with the idea of, because you got to write things down. You got to know what's coming next. If you have any questions in the meantime, feel free to drop them down below and I'll make sure that I get to them. But I want to get clear today on why it's so important to plan. Going on past the monthly pages, my favorite part of this planner is the daily pages, the weekly pages. So the biggest part that I would get really frustrated with is not knowing how my weeks are going to go. So that's why I created this weekly page here. Every week has 2 pages. A weekly schedule page and a weekly priority page. And the weekly priority page, it gives you a breakdown of not only what you want to do, but you break it down by the HR disciplines. And this also helped me to realize when I first started out, I spent so much of my time in recruiting and in payroll because it was comfortable for me. When I was an unpaid intern, all I did was recruiting. When I was full-time, all I did was payroll. And then when my supervisor left, And someone literally passed away my second month by myself. I had no idea what to do. I barely knew what life insurance was, let alone how to process a life insurance paperwork. So this helped me to identify, listen, you are only working in these two categories. HR is so much more than that. And that's when people tell you, oh, well, I work in HR. What does that mean? What do you do? Because that can be anything. So as I go through this, it helps me to say, okay, well, how much am I doing this week in comp and benefits? How much am I doing in payroll? How much am I doing in employee relations, employee development, talent acquisition, employee training? But also more than that, what are my goals for the week? How am I preparing myself for my next level? What am I pouring into myself? What's my non-negotiable? What are my top priorities? These are all the things you need to know as an HR department of one, especially because as you are growing in HR, you've got to have structure around it. That's the only way you're going to be able to grow your credibility and grow your expertise. It's because you've got to put some structure around what you do in your day. But beyond that, of course, you're going to have your weekly schedule pages. What I love about this is that every single week there's a weekly affirmation. So for the first week of January, the affirmation was, I have high standards for my life. I really believe that there's power in speaking life over yourself. We have a tendency as people, as women more especially, to talk negatively about ourselves or to beat ourselves up or to not give ourselves the same grace that we would give somebody else. So that was why I was very intentional about putting these weekly affirmations in every single page, because you've got to be intentional about the way you speak to yourself. So I hope that resonates with you, with anyone out there listening, whether you're watching live or watching on the replay. Again, make sure you list any comments that you have, any questions that you have down below. But I feel that having a clear plan for me, not only an annual plan, not only a monthly plan, but down to the granular level, the daily plan, knowing exactly what I'm going to be working in my different disciplines, that helped me to propel my career in a way that I feel was undeniable. I feel like I was able to explain what I do so well that it was super apparent to everyone around me in terms of whether it's my supervisor, whether it was my peers, whether it's those that I serve. And I feel that when you're working as an HR department of one, so much of the work that you goes unseen. So much of the work that you do goes unseen. And it's so difficult to make sure you are thriving and not just surviving because you're just busy treading water. Every day sometimes feels like it's different, but you've got to make sure you are growing and building yourself up for that next level. Angela, you say, where can I find this planner? So I'm going to put a link down below. Here is the URL is www.talentedteamsconsulting.com/thrive. So you can type that in. I'm probably, let's see, can I type in here? I think I might be able to type in here. Let me know if that comes through on your side. But if you click that link, it's going to take you down the steps to what you need to do to get the planner yourself. I think you can either download a digital download, and you can also get a hard copy from Amazon. But I also want to not caution. I'm transparent. Anything that I do, I don't want to do anything halfway. Anything that I do, I'm never going to leave you hanging and stranded. So one thing that I also like to add, in addition to the planner, once you download the planner, and this is the page it'll take you to, you will also get courses, because it's 170 pages, and 170 pages is a lot of pages, and it's easy to just want to put this thing down and just go what you were doing before. But I feel like it's so important to make it so that you want to come back to this. And so in addition to the digital download that you would get, I put some tutorial videos in here. So of course you'll get the welcome video, and I'll walk through every single section, more so than I did in this video. The personal growth pages, the annual planning, the monthly planning, weekly planning. What I did not touch on today was the project planning pages and then the notes pages. Because I feel like it's one thing for me to give you a 100 or for you to purchase a 170 page planner, but it means nothing if you don't work the plan. You got to work the plan, and you got to want to work the plan, which is why I built in so many things where it comes to the affirmations and the self-care and the personal planning. I want you to want to go back to this plan because it's going to be the key for you to get to your next level of your career. I'm confident. I know it is because it helped me to do it. You're going to be so much more confident because you're going to have so much more control over your day. Now, don't get me wrong. People are always going to people are going to surprise you. People are going to do things they're not supposed to do. But the things that you can always account for, the things you can anticipate, you need to anticipate for those things. That's the only way you're going to have control over your day and not have to be so chaotic. And so in addition to those pages, you'll also get bonus pages if you want to print out more things. I talked before about how you need to make sure you know what's going to happen every month, every quarter. So there's extra pages that you want to print out in case you run out of space within the planner that you get. And there's also a sneak peek of the welcome video in case you're interested. But the goal of this whole conversation is to let you know how important it is to plan as an HR professional. When you're working as an HR department of one, is different than when you're in a part of a department. When you're in a department, you can lean on other people. Someone else can pick up the slack. If you're not there, someone else can do it. If you forget something, someone else can remind you. But when you're in HR department of one, you've got to create your own systems. You've got to be your own assistant. So let this planner be your assistant. And don't get me wrong, I'm all about my Outlook calendar and my calendar on my phone. And all those things help me as well. But having this planner, this guide, it helps you. It's almost like a workbook. It helps you to work through every single week. And you can look back and see, okay, well, how much of my time am I spending in this? What have I accomplished? It just helps you to build your own confidence. So if you have any questions about why I feel it's so important to plan, please drop them down below. If you're not watching live, drop them down in the comments later on. I can circle back to them. Going back to my notes, make sure I don't miss anything. So I just wanted to tell this one story. So this morning, so we have 3 kids. The ages are 4, 6, and 8 right now. And so our middle child, she's 6, and she's very. They're all pretty mature. If I'm honest, they're all pretty mature. But the 6-year-old, she's also a middle child. She's pretty. I would say she's kind of precocious. And so she was adamant that her belt was not in the living room. I knew her belt was probably in the living room, but she was like, no, it's not in the living room. It's not in the living room. I was like, but how do you know it's not in the living room? And she was like, well, I just know it's not in the living room. I was like, it is in the living room. I was like, go look. So she went to go look, and then it got real quiet. And then later on in the morning, I was like, okay, so was it in the living room? Yes, it was in the living room. I was like, oh, okay. So what do you think about that? She's like, well, I just didn't know it was in the living room. I was like, exactly. And that made me think about the fact that sometimes we are so sure that we've got everything lined up, everything jammed up, but sometimes we don't know what we don't know. And sometimes it takes somebody else on the outside of us telling us what we don't know to help us to shed light on other things, whether we want to believe them or not, whether we see it for ourselves or not. So use this conversation as an opportunity to change whatever you're doing in your day. If you feel like you got some things that are out of control, some things that are more chaotic, some things you feel like every day you're drowning, even if you don't get the planner, which I hope you get the planner because it's going to help you, and then I can help you and serve you at a higher level. But even if you don't, figure out a new system to make sure you are building your days intentionally. Don't let every day you go into work and things are just happening. Don't let things just happen to you. Make things happen instead. You are so welcome, Angela. I hope that that's helpful for you. If you have any questions for me, drop them down below. Again, if you go to www.talentedteamsconsulting.com/thrive, you can get the planner. You can get plugged into our community. You can start getting my email updates. You can know what's going on within the Talented Teams Consulting, the thriving as an HR department of one world. So I hope this conversation has been helpful for you. If I can serve you at a higher level, do not hesitate to reach out to me by booking a discovery call. And see, Angela says, what do you recommend doing when you plan, but then personnel issues happen and deter you from your plan? Great question, Angela. Great question. So on the weekly pages, every week there's a non-negotiable. And I think there's also a plate right below the non-negotiable. There's a section that says, like, what are your top priorities? So there are going to be some times where you can't get everything done. But I feel like every week there's typically like at least one thing you got to get done no matter what. And so on those weeks where there's going to be something that comes up that you cannot anticipate, as long as you get done with your non-negotiable, it's still a win. One thing that I had to come to grips with is I will have a laundry list of things that I had to get done on a daily basis. It may be 10 things, 15 things. And I will walk out the door and maybe only 2 things would get done, or 1 thing will get done. It will feel like a waste of a day. But you've got to also remember that in HR, you're more than a task manager. And especially when you're an HR department of one, sometimes it's difficult to get beyond being a task manager because the tasks have to get done. And so that's why when you're able to plan them out, you know, okay, well, if I don't get this done today, I know I have until this day to get it done, but because that's before the next big thing pops up. So as long as you've got structure around your day and you know you can work it in, at least get something done every day when you're dealing with the personnel issues. But the personnel issues should not take you completely off of your plan. You've got to figure out, depending on the personnel issue, it could be anything. It could be a payroll discrepancy. It could be two co-workers not getting along. It could be a new employee who's not cutting it just yet. The personnel issue could be anything, but that shouldn't derail your entire day. And if it does, it shouldn't derail your entire week. So if you need additional assistance, if I can help you in that area, please don't hesitate to reach out to me as well. Once you're on my email list, if you have any questions you want to email me, feel free to do that. We can have those conversations and I can serve you at a higher level as well. I hope that was helpful, Angela. If you have any follow-ups, if I can help you while we're on this call, please don't hesitate to put them down below before we wrap up. I want to make sure I can get that question answered. But in short, if you have this is when you plan, but personnel issues happen. Yeah, I would say as long as you make sure you're at least accomplishing something that day and not letting that personnel issue derail your entire week, it's still a win. Because you've got to make sure that as an HR department of one, you are the only person in HR. So you're the only person who can handle those personnel issues. So you've got to make sure you are comfortable enough to do that, but to wrap it up as quickly as you can to get back to your plan. And that's the whole point of writing things down so you know what you get back to. I put in an email that I sent out to my list. I think it was yesterday, the same email that I was announcing to my list, the partnership with SHRM. And I was explaining to them that, you know, I'm doing all these things. I'm a wife, I'm a mom, I work full time, I'm running this business, I'm aligning with SHRM. How do I do all this? It's like, and yes, there are sometimes I just cannot. Yes, there are sometimes I want to break. Yes, there are sometimes I don't feel good. And I can do all these things first of all, I can do all these things through the power of God. But then outside of that, I can do these things because I have a plan. And whether I feel like it or not, once I come back to it, the plan is the plan. And I can pick back up where I left off. So that's the benefit of writing things down, because you can use that to make sure you are continuing to move the needle forward. And that's all it is. I feel like we shouldn't strive for perfection, but we should strive for progress. Progress is always the goal. So if there's any questions that you guys have, feel free to continue to drop them down below. If you're watching on the replay, I hope you found this helpful. If you're watching live, I hope you found this helpful. If I can serve you at a higher level, don't hesitate to reach out to me, booking a discovery call. But again, if you click the link that is down below as well, you can get a copy of this guide, this planner. And I am confident that with the planner, the digital downloads, and the videos that you'll get, that's going to help you to take your career to the next level. And you're going to feel more confident and more competent to do the job that you're there to do. I hope you found this helpful. And if I can serve you more at a higher level, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'll talk to you on the next one. Bye.